Welcome, everybody, to the Authentic as Fuck podcast. My name is San. I'm a storyteller and marketer. And in this podcast, I talk to members of Night Owl Nation, my community, to help them with entrepreneurship, storytelling, personal branding, anything they need help with. So today, we have A.B. Welcome, A.B.
What's up, son?
How's it going?
How we doing?
So do you want to quickly introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, what your business is?
Sure. So I am A.B Wright. I am from Ohio, grew up in Atlanta, and now back in the Midwest in Wisconsin. Spent a few years playing and chasing the dream of professional baseball, which was able to do that for a few years. Transferred from that to the military after a couple of years of figuring out what I wanted to do next. So I joined the Navy. This came actually after post 9/11. So it was more of a thing to serve my country and do something something noble to say that I was a part of something great. And in the military, took on, I'd say, a lot of things that helped me build my character and find myself and believe more in myself. To the point that a few years ago in 2018, I got out of the military in hopes of continuing professional baseball, but by way of coaching and instructing players. And pandemic hit in 2020. Didn't know that was happening. And
Oh, you didn't?
I had no clue.
You didn't get the memo?
Get the memo. And that led to me trying to figure out what was next because sports was impacted. I was in my last year of school, and I'm sorry, I kind of skipped a part, but when I got out of the military, part of that journey of exiting was to go to school full time and finish my degree. And that's in sport management and a minor in coaching. So, but while I'm in pretty much that last year, I'm a coach. I'm a student coach. And we get a call in for a meeting, and next thing you know, NCAA has canceled the season, and I'm left there not really struggling to deal with reality like the players were. Some of them was in their senior year, and they were hurt and trying to figure out what does life mean now. And eventually, I was in that same place trying to figure out what life meant. And fortunately, I had been doing YouTube. I had tried YouTube and doing content, making content that way, and Reels had recently been introduced in the past few years for Instagram. So I'd started doing video content there. And, God just told me, do what you've been doing. And that was when I thought about it, I was like, that's video. So I guess baseball is done. I guess I'm finally done chasing the dream of baseball and got into video production. I'm now in the place where I'm chasing documentary filmmaking. So I'm working on some projects right now.
Got it.
But in the meantime, I'd like to, of course, continue to grow as a filmmaker, as a video editor, and grow my production studio. So that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's it's interesting how life turns happen, and then it kind of paves the way for you. Like for me, I don't know if you know this story, but I actually wanted to be a filmmaker
Yes.
long time ago. And for me, what happened was, in order to buy the camera, I started freelancing, making websites, and I actually enjoyed this more. And I ended up doing this, and then in my agency, we ended up making videos for clients. So somehow, all my filmmaking stuff that I learned came back. So I think life works like that in a way that, you were talking about, even your experience with coaching and stuff like that, and how that helps you in leading a small group or something like that.
Right.
Everything we learn, I feel like nothing is ever being wasted. You can always apply what you learned to whatever new thing that you're going to be doing.
That's true.
So,
That's true. And no, I didn't know anything about the filmmaking part until I joined your mailing list yesterday, and I got your email last night or yesterday evening, and it mentioned your filmmaking journey, and I was like,
okay.
"Oh man, I didn't know that. I knew so much,
yeah.
or I knew some things about."
There's so many. Yeah, there's so many random things like that I did, right? That even to this day, it still helps
Hmm.
me every day. There's nothing that I learn that's not helping me
Right.
today.
Right. I
So
agree with you.
I just wanted everyone to hear that, so that whatever you're doing, even if you're going the wrong direction, you're not wasting your time.
Right. Right. That's a fact. That's a fact.
So, filmmaking is it's a tough career
Yes.
because most most people that I know that are in filmmaking, what they have is they have a day job
Hmm.
where they work as a producer for a TV show, or as a DP for a film
Hmm.
set, and then they have the dream of making their own film, right? So it sounds like you're in that similar boat where there's a documentary film that you're working on that's kind of your side hustle,
Hmm.
and then you also have like a kind of freelancing,
Hmm.
or something else to kind of pay the
Right.
bills, right? And that's that's the life of a
Right.
artist
Right.
until this takes over.
It is, because you're funding your journey. You're funding your, I guess you'd say, your love projects, and your
Hmm.
creative projects that you really are putting your heart in to make happen. But even through that, having that passion, you have to generate the revenue somewhere. You got to generate the capital somewhere, other than having
Exactly.
investors buy into a film, or invest into the film. But yeah, we're not at that point. I'm not looking for investors, so I got to do the work.
Yeah. So, is there any questions you have for me, or anything you're struggling with that you want to talk about today?
I would say probably for me, the biggest thing that I want to do is share my own story. I feel like in sharing my own story, even in using it for the 1 day doc. So I've got a contest or a challenge, 1 day doc challenge in my film group. And instead of finding someone else to tell a story, I've got a million stories. I have my own unique story, and I want to share exactly what you were talking about a moment ago, where you said not to worry about the thing that you're doing. It may not make sense now.
Hmm.
It may not seem like it's going to apply to the next part of the journey when you pivot, but they do. And that's what I want to draw or translate in my journey, going from, I don't know if I need to go all the way back to baseball. I'm trying to figure out where to start the story or how to tell it, but I am just trying to draw um, the factor or the emotion of one, the belief in yourself, the love of yourself, and being willing to try and just watch and see how it unfolds. And that's what has happened for me to even be here,
Yeah.
is to try so many different things that most people aren't going to try, and be able to tell that
So, what's
story.
a 1 day doc? Why did
So
you call it
so
a one
one
day
day
doc?
doc is you're going to basically create a documentary from 1 day's worth of work. So if I'm shooting any footage, I can only do it in 1 day. Now, there is a caveat that if in fact maybe there's the lighting was bad, or maybe there's something where you do need to reshoot something, you can,
Okay.
but or excuse me, you can on another day, but only if you need to do it that other day, but not multiple
Got it.
days. So that's why they call it a 1 day doc.
So, you know Casey Neistat,
Yes.
the
Hmm.
YouTuber? So, kind of like, how he used to do those daily vlogs
Hmm.
back then, where it was basically like every single day it was like he was making a film,
Right.
right? Like almost like a documentary film. So similar to that, like you're, or is it like, are you actually shooting a documentary, like going back in your past and
That was my
doing
thought.
research and
And the funny part is, you saying Casey Neistat. Of course, I still watch anything that he posts, much like most video creators and filmmakers that I know. I won the first thing I was thinking of was to pull archival footage of events I've been to, things like that. Kind of talk about certain things. I've actually created a shot list, and I've completed some of those shots to pull out some of the points I want to share about the military, the transition, and things like that. So I have gone from that angle, but watching probably a recent Casey Neistat video and some other vlogs that I have watched remind me or kind of nudge me to say I may want to try it from that angle. Just do it as a vlog style.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think there's tremendous value in doing
Mm-hmm.
vlogs because like every day you're thinking on your toes, right? And you're figuring things out. And there's like for me, whenever I do anything creative, it's important for me to have some sort of
Mm-hmm.
boundaries. Like for example, I need this done in a week,
Yep.
or you only have this amount much money to do it. You can only use these locations because when you have unlimited options, that's when like we procrastinate. We actually don't do
It's got to
anything
be
and things like that. But
perfect.
when
The weather's got to be right.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. But when you put boundaries on to a creative, what that does is it forces that person to be more
Right.
creative. Do you understand what I mean?
Exactly.
And some magic comes out of that, and
Okay.
like that could be actually also a good way for you to show your
Mm.
work so that it might even help you get more freelancing gigs and things like
Mm.
that on top of building your kind of filmmaker brand, right?
You just gave me it. My wheels are running right now. My wheels are turning. I'll say this part, and now I know this is probably the direction. I think we're locking in on the direction. I went to a University of Wisconsin Parkside. It's in the UW system, and it was in a classroom there that was challenged to learn how to create video. I had been wanting to do YouTube for a minute, but I just did not have the gall to do it. Now this is the same person that's done professional sports and been in the military and done a lot of stuff that takes courage and commitment to it. And I just will not commit to getting in front of the camera. I feel like I'm gonna look like a fool, probably just like anybody else that has wanted to do video or create content. And in this class, we have a group project. And in the group project, we have our parts. It's a video project. And this girl, I can't remember her name, but she says she basically delegates. She was the director and everything. She produced it the whole nine. So she said, hey, you two get together. You're going to shoot on this day, do these parts. You two get together, do this. Me and him going to do whatever. And then y'all get the footage to me and I'll edit and do the soundtrack, do all that kind of stuff. And when the final piece came out and we watched it in the classroom, because I didn't even watch it before then, I was just like, wow. Was it that easy? It's not that it's that easy, but it was like when I saw the process, I was like, it's not as hard as I thought it was, especially to get in front of the camera and talk. So from that day, that was when I said, you know what? I got to figure out how, because I was amazed how do you put the voice over the video and the sound and the music and all? So I was like, I got to figure this thing out. And I didn't bother to ask her. I said, I'm going to
Yeah,
figure it out. So,
yeah. No, I love that.
catching
Yeah.
up to recent.
It's good that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, catching up to recently, I ran into that professor and I let her know that aside from me getting my degree, me starting my YouTube channel was because of that project, because it challenged
Oh
me
wow.
to do the project, to do the thing that I was scared to do. And when it forced me to do it, like you were saying, getting in this box, those small boundaries, when it forced me to do it, I did it, surprised myself, and now it again has brought me to where I am today. So
Sounds like you had a 5 second
yeah.
moment there, where you kind of opened your eyes to like maybe I can do
Right.
this or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I love that because like I do everything in a very like for example, I learned how to code. I'm not scared of making bugs.
Okay.
And when in the beginning days of Night Owl, like if me and another developer have me and my friend has an idea, we'll just stay up all night and just code it that night, right? And what I realized is that when we started hiring people from this corporate world, from Ogilvy, Google, like these big companies that come in, and they would stretch everything out. They would be like, okay, oh, you wanna build an app like that? It's gonna take about 2 months of planning, 3 months of this research, and I'm like, dude, no, this is not going to take 6 months. We're going to do this by end of the week. Okay. Like it was impossible for me to get them to see, because in this corporate world, that's how things move at snail speed. Like
so many
any
hands
little
are on
thing
it.
you want to, exactly. Like anything that we're going to do, add another year to it. Right.
Right.
So, but then when you're like a small team or a small company, you move quickly. You just, okay, oh, you like that? Let's just do it. Boom, 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 boom. Right. And the beauty of that is, once people come to us and they see us working like that, people are amazed. Like, how did you guys do that in a week? That would have taken us 3 months to do. Well, it's taking you 3 months to do it because in your head you told yourself that it's going to take 3 months. But as soon as you tell yourself that it's going to take a week, you'll figure out how to do it in a week.
Right.
And that's kind of how a lot of creative processes work. Because there's no room for procrastination. You're just going to get ideas faster. You're not unafraid to just try shit and just mess up and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Question: Is Hello World still the test string for coding?
Yeah, that's Hello World is the first thing you learn when you start coding. It's your only job is to get it to say Hello World. That's it.
Well, I don't think we've talked about this either. Maybe we have, maybe we haven't in Night Owl Nation. But yeah, that was when I first went to college. Out of high school, computer science was it, and I took computer programming like in my freshman year, which I think was a mistake. I don't know why I got into that so soon, but Turbo Pascal, Java, C++, and I think we had gone away from Cobalt and Python by then, but those were the programs that we used to test code for Hello World. So I remember that. I didn't do that great. I didn't do that great in that class.
Most people don't learn coding in school. So everybody that I know that's a developer, if they major in computer science, they already knew how to code before they went to school. So they started learning when they were 12. You know what I mean? The people that didn't know how to code by the time they were 18 and they went to computer science program and they tried to learn how to code, they graduate and they still don't know how to code.
Got it. Well, here we go.
And the reason why is because school doesn't actually teach you anything. They just teach you how to pass tests. That's what they teach you. And so the people that knew how to code after their CS program were the ones that already knew, because I think you need some sort of some kind of a grit, this desire to want to do that in order to be a coder, because coding has such a high barrier of entry. Like there's just so much you have to learn before you can really get into it that most people can't get past that. It's such a huge hurdle for most people to get past that.
Gotcha. Well, I tried it. Yeah. I didn't know that going into it. I know that now that's just one of those things prior to. But hey, I tried it. I enjoyed it. But yeah, that wasn't for me.
And I also think this is the reason why most people think things take so long, because usually when you do a project, and you can probably you probably experience this through video projects too, but even on programming, websites and design, whatever it is, the first 80% takes 20% of the time. The last 20% takes 80% of the time, right? And that's why what I always try to do is, before trying to make everything perfect, I just try to quickly do the first 80% and 20% of the time to see if there's even something here, right? And I feel free to throw that away.
Right.
And then if I feel like, okay, there's something here, now let's perfect it. Then I'll spend a shitload of time afterwards to make it really perfect. But making it perfect at the end, even when you edit videos and things like that, you can kind of put a rough thing and rough cut and you can watch it and it's like, oh, there's something there. Like the first 80% is there, and it was pretty quick. But then just to go in and fine tune everything making perfect, add the subtitle and all of that, that's where it takes like the last, 80% of the time.
It does. You're right.
So
you're definitely right. So start messy, like you said before. Start messy.
Yeah, it's the thing that most of us creatives struggle with. Just You hear people that are like, oh yeah, I created this NFT project and now I made $100 million. Or you see people that are saying like, oh yeah, I just started freelancing and I already got 3 clients. Like people just like do messy and boom boom boom. They become successful.
Right.
The one thing I think that holds us back as creatives are our perfectionism and our need to start perfect.
That's the problem.
Right? And it's really the biggest,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
biggest
the
our
problem. I know
biggest
that was
weakness.
my hurdle for creating YouTube. It was that I wanted to create a video like Casey Neistat, like Peter McKinnon, like um, I'm trying to think of some of my other automotive guys, but I wanted to create content the way they create content. Crispy Media, I got into cinematic, the cinematic
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
films and car content where you go to car shows and you create an after movie, and it's just an amazing thing. You can't do that when you don't
Yeah,
even understand the basics of the camera. You don't understand those
exactly.
things,
Yeah.
those elements.
Here's how the best analogy. Like people say quality versus quantity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now people are saying like quantity leads to
Mm-hmm.
quality, right? But what that really means is, okay, it's 2 completely different things actually. Because have you seen this documentary called Jiro Dream of Sushi?
I've heard you. I think I've heard you talk about that, but no, I haven't seen that.
Okay, so this Jiro guy is like a 80-year-old Japanese man who's been making sushi for over 50
Mm.
years. Okay, and his sushi place is considered pretty much the best sushi place in the
Mm.
world. It's the only sushi place that has 3 Michelin stars.
Wow.
Now, like that place is so popular that first it takes 6 months to even book a table there, and they only serve one party per day. So they only serve like 10 people per day, and those 10 people they have reserved seating. They don't get to pick a menu. He just gives them whatever. But it's so perfect down to a T that when they walk in, he knows like, okay, this is male, male, female, male, female. Like he remembers the arrangement. He just by looking at how they pull out the chair, he knows if they're right-handed or left-handed. So he'll make sure to put the sushi on this side versus this side. And if it's like a female, he makes it a little bit
Mm-hmm.
smaller. And so he like everything is perfect, right? And a lot of people think that. And then let's compare that to like some like Whole Foods where they just pump out a bunch of sushi all day long,
Right.
right? Okay. Now, yes, in that sense, this is focusing on quantity and not quality, and Jiro is focusing on quality, not quantity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of people look at that and be like, "Oh yeah, quality over quantity,"
Mm-hmm.
right? But here's the truth. The truth is, Jiro got to where he is through 50 years of quantity. Do you understand what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Exactly.
So that's what we should be
Mm-hmm.
remembering is that in order to get to
Yep.
Jiro's level of quality, not quantity, you actually need a shitload of years of
Mm-hmm.
quantity. And that's kind of what starting messy with the podcast, with Instagram, with YouTube is, right? You start messy today, and then 5 years from now of making videos every week, you're gonna reach the point where you have
Mm-hmm.
quality, and you know through that quantity of making videos. So the quality is not make it quality today.
Right.
the the quality is we're gonna keep doing quantity right now, so eventually we can get to the
Correct.
quality. So
Yeah.
that's how I would say it. Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. That's spot on.
Because like whenever somebody says, "Oh, it's all about the quality, not quantity," I'm like, you just don't get
Yeah.
it, do you? Like the only reason why I'm making quality websites right now is because I've been making shitty websites for 20 years.
Right. It's so easy, it seems like, for people to miss the journey. There's so much in the journey that carries over to who you eventually become, and even who you become today isn't who you're going to be tomorrow. Because everything we're doing now in these next 5 years, 10 years, you know, God's will that we are here, then that's going to bless us to do whatever that next thing is that we take on in the journey. So
Exactly.
yeah, It's definitely the quantity.
That's why I don't understand. Like, I don't understand people that are like. I think the reason why that happens is when people, usually when people are inspired to be
Mm-hmm.
filmmakers, they've seen the Hollywood set with the big, nice, big cameras with the crew and the celebrities, and they see that and they're like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. I like that energy, blah, blah, blah. Like they think that they love the process of filmmaking because they're in the set and things like that. But the thing is, if you really, really love filmmaking, you'll be shooting films every day with your iPhone.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I
Yeah.
mean? That's a person who really loves filmmaking. And if you love shooting film with your iPhone every single
That's
day
funny.
because you truly love filmmaking, not only are you going to have amazing time every single day, but those are the people that eventually end up becoming Casey Neistat
Mm-hmm.
or Steven Spielberg. Or do you understand what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Not the ones that are like looking to be like, I want to be like Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
but today I'm not shooting anything because I want to wait till I get the perfect camera.
Mm-mm.
I want to wait till I get the perfect set.
Nope.
And if you in that mentality, I think that person will not
No.
last because the road to success is so long and so hard that if you're waiting for that, like if your only goal is to get a six pack, you're most likely gonna give up because it's gonna take you years to get a six pack. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And at some point, you're gonna quit if you
Oh,
don't truly
it's
enjoy
back there.
the process of
You
it.
made me think about you talked about the iPhone. Of course, it's right here, but I didn't have this when I started the journey. I actually have I think it's a GoPro Hero 4 Black, and that thing is beat up now. But I started with that, and
Oh, nice, yeah,
and the thing got to the point that it just would shut off. It would overheat and shut off in the middle of me recording. But I, at that time, did not have the money to invest into a camera. So I just kept using that and just using that to get better and to get better with
yeah.
editing the
Because you
footage
enjoy the process
because it's the
of
process.
capturing
Mm-hmm.
something and telling a story with it. It's not the camera, it's not the lighting. That's
Yeah.
and that's exactly actually how I started. I built my entire agency, like all the portfolio that I made when I started my agency. I did it with like a used piece of shit MacBook that I bought on Craigslist, and I used that for I beat that thing up for like 4 years, and all the portfolio that I made it on that thing when I started Night Owl. So yeah, I mean that's what I want to see from a creative,
Mm-hmm.
like doing it like the gritty ghetto fabulous
Right.
way. And if you enjoy, if you love doing what you're doing with that,
Yeah.
then you have what it takes to survive the
Mm-hmm.
hardship, right?
Yeah. I know I'm in the right place. I knew it
Yeah,
beforehand, but the confirmation definitely is today because it's definitely in the process that I enjoyed the most and
yeah,
seeing the results after all is said and done. And it's like, it's
yeah,
like watching your favorite athlete or your favorite movie star, entertainer, and loving the work, loving what you see on film or loving what you see on the field on the court, but not taking an account of what goes on behind the scenes and saying you're going to do the same thing until you start doing two a days or you get on a set and realize you're sitting around for hours upon hours before you shoot the next scene and you're doing that for months. And it's
exactly.
like if
Yeah.
you are not ready for that part of the process or you don't enjoy that part of the
Here's the thing,
process,
right?
hang it up.
So many people at Night Owl, there are people that go up, leave Night Owl, and start their own agency, and they're successful. And there are people who are not. And the people who are not successful are the ones that are looking at where we are,
Mm.
right? Night Owl. And they're like, oh, yeah, I want that. That's where I want to be. I think I can do it. And they go out. And what they don't realize is in the first year, when they're barely making money, they're struggling with money. So they're struggling to pay the bill. In the meantime, clients are yelling at them and client leaves and you have to keep kissing ass to this client to get you. Like once they get in the thing and they're like, son, like, what should I do? This is so hard, blah, blah, blah. Why is it so hard for me? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what I went through in the first 3 years. So you know how they say business is hard? Like you need failure. Failure is what leads to success. This is what that means.
Literally.
When they say it's hard, this is what hard looks
Yeah.
like. And a lot of people don't realize it until they start. And they're like, oh, this is like, it's kind of like, I really hate it when somebody says, I want to be a chef, but they don't like cook for their friends. Or somebody who says they want to be a singer, but they don't sing like in front of like they're in a birthday party, or you know what I mean? Like I'm only gonna sing if I'm on stage, winning the Grammy, or I'm only gonna cook when I'm cooking for a 5-star restaurant.
Yeah.
That means you don't really want to be a chef. If you really want to be a chef, you would love making grilled cheese for your friends.
And you're doing it already. Most times
Exactly.
they're doing
you're
it.
Probably already doing
they're
it.
already doing it. The ones that become a chef or create, make
That's
food.
true. They're not really worried about the price.
Right.
Because they're having so much fun
in the process
doing the thing. They're not even looking at that really. That's just a bonus for them, right?
Right. That's good. That is good.
Yeah, man.
That is good. Wow. Yeah. That's go ahead. You got it.
You remember when we were talking about the 80-20 thing, 80-20 thing? I just want to bring that up because a lot of freelancers also don't understand this. Like, they think that, like, a lot of creative think that, oh, I need to be a starving artist or something like that, right? But then they look at somebody like Banksy, or they look at somebody like that's really successful artist, like people or something like that, and I want to be like them too, right? But the thing is, the reason why they got there is because they're also smart in business. Do you know what I mean? And one thing that I want to really advise, obviously this is not for everyone. Of course, you can be like J.K. Rowling, who you can be homeless and just putting all your time into your craft and have success that way too. But just remember this: J.K. Rowling could have easily become just homeless too, right? She got lucky, and she really put in her work and things like that. But there are a million J.K. Rowlings out there who did the same thing, who didn't have that success. They're probably homeless now, right? So what I always tell people is the 80-20 rule, because 80% of your time as a creative should be spent on the thing that's going to make you money, that keeps you going, that's going to build your career, whatever it is. And then 20% of your time should be spent on the completely what you want to do without any regard for money, just purely because you love it. And that's the only way one day this 20% could become 80%. But when that 20% becomes 80%, now you have a new 20%. Here's why. For me, when I had a 9-to-5 job, my 9-to-5 job was my 80%, right? That's the thing that pays the bill every 2 weeks, right? And then I was freelancing on the side because that was fun. But once freelancing became my main thing, that became boring. And the reason why is because even if I love to design, once somebody starts paying me for it, because what I loved about design is something doing completely new, right? So here's the thing I did last time. Okay, my next project, I'm going to do something completely different. And when I do something completely different, I'm learning, I'm making mistakes, and I'm figuring, and that's what's exciting about it, right? If I was just doing the same exact thing I did last time, that's boring because I already did it. But imagine doing the same thing 20 times in a row, 30 times in a row, right? But here's the thing. Nobody wants to pay you to try something new. Most clients are going to come to me and say, hey, I like what you built for this person. Can I get the exact same thing, right? Or something similar. So most times when somebody's paying you, they're paying you because you've already done it a million times. And they know you can guarantee do it again, right? But those are the things that are boring. So no matter what you do, by the time somebody pays you for it, it's going to get boring. So that's why your 20% once it becomes 80, it's always going to be there. And then you're going to have a new 20%, right? So for me, that's okay. Now I want to start my own agency, right? But then once my own agency becomes 80%, it's like, now I want to start Night Owl Nation. Well, and then once at Night Owl Nation, once everything is, maybe what I want to do is I want to add a retreat in Night Owl Nation. Maybe I want to add a new thing within Night Owl Nation, right? So throughout your career, you'll always have that 80-20. There's never going to be a time when you're doing what you want to do all day, every day, 100% of the time.
Right.
Even Kobe Bryant, even Tiger Woods, like the best athletes in the world, their 20% might be playing in the NBA Finals or playing in the PGA Tour, right? Those moments, and they win, they get all the press, and they get all the there's that 20% time. But the 80% of the time is him 5 a.m. going to the gym, going to the workout, right? Doing those drills. If you're a celebrity, like doing those tours, press tours, where you're just talking to people and signing autographs. Like you have to do that 80%, otherwise, you don't get to do the 20%. So I had to kind of accept that early on in my career and said, and I think we talked about this before in your podcast, where remember I told you about that guy in the Navy SEALs who would have 2 cases of beer in the waiting line, and he could put it down, but in order to train his discipline, he would just hold it and see how long he can hold it for, something like that. So I had to learn to love the grit. I had to learn to love, and the way I did it, and maybe this might help you. Maybe this might help someone. Hopefully this helps all the creatives and all the freelancers out there. We tend to get our pleasure from and our happiness from the work. For example, I did this amazing thing, right? And then once we show it to our clients, the client's like, no, I don't like it. Can you just go back to the old one? Then all of our spirits, we're like, this fucking client doesn't know what he's talking about. Or, we make it perfect, and the client's like, can you make the logo bigger? And can you add red here? And can you make this? And once you do that, it like messes up the design. And we're like, our life is over. Like, this, right? And we put so much emphasis on that, right? But what I had to do was, because I was serving clients, I had to switch my brain and say, okay, my goal now is not to make the most beautiful design for this client. My goal is to put the biggest smile on his face or her face. So what I used to do is, like, we had a client a long time ago. We were building an e-commerce site for her. And she wanted this, she's selling t-shirts. So she wanted this feature where you can zoom in and there's a magnifying glass so you can see the thread and stuff like that. And this is back in maybe 2003, 2004. There was no Spotify. There was no plugin that could do this for you. Like, if I want this, I had to learn how to code and do it myself, right? So what I did was I spent a week learning how to do it. And then I didn't tell her. I just did it without telling her. And then on the day when I was presenting the website, I still didn't tell her. I just showed it to her. And then she just happened to roll. She's like, oh my gosh. Because I told her that we couldn't do it. And then I surprised her, right? And here's the thing. So what I was trying to do is, because my goal is to put the biggest smile on her face, I would constantly come up with things like that, right? When I was working with our employees for Christmas, we bought all of them these gifts, and we kind of spied on them for like a month to figure out, what is it? She's trying to get an espresso machine. Okay, let's order an espresso machine with like 6 months worth of capsules. Or we found the perfect gift for each person, and when they opened that gift, it was like, oh my gosh, how did you know I wanted this, son? And that, so just putting the smile on their face and just being of service, kind of like how a parent is always serving their children. That's where if we put our joy there, then you can do this 80% without being miserable. Because you've reframed your mind to say, my goal here in the 80% is not to make the most amazing design, not to make the most amazing video, but to make the client as happy as they can. And when they're happy, they're going to make you happy. And it's like, just that happiness is like It spreads. It's
Right,
contagious.
right. That's a great reminder because my goal is to, through content, whether it's creating shorts or taking their long form content and editing shorts for them, or other vertical content for them, also to be able to tell stories for, I don't know, if they wanted to do a piece on a testimonial or do a piece on an upcoming project pertaining to, I don't know, some feature wear or feature product. And
Hmm.
although, even though that's my desire, this is a good reminder to remember that I don't want to get lost in what my desire is for the client or my desire to produce for the client. To also
Exactly.
just remember that there's a service that they're paying me for, and to just make sure we're getting that as best to the
Yeah.
spec that they want. And I do have to remember that customer service component because I spent so many years in customer service too. But that was kind of the thing that kept me from wanting to even do create a production company or do that, because I was so into the craft, so into the process of creating and telling stories. So yeah,
Well, that's your what's your 20% is for,
right, exactly.
right? Your 80% is to make them happy, and sometimes they might look like they might want a piece of shit design, but they just want it by tomorrow.
That's a fact.
And the way to make them happy is to give them that piece of shit design, but instead of
Oh,
delivering it by tomorrow, I'm gonna deliver it by tonight.
you just reminded
Do you
me.
understand what
You
I mean?
just reminded me of something. And my good friend Jeremiah, I served with him in the Navy, and he got out not too long after I did. And during that time period of us both transitioning in between military to civilian life, when I did buy my camera after using my GoPro for I don't know how long, a year, I did buy a Sony A6000 and at two lenses, the whole nine,
Oh,
open
nice.
box at Best Buy, and
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this is the greatest thing ever. So I'm using it more so to shoot photography, automotive photography particularly. Uh, I did a video at a I was driving by a dealership, and I saw a Dodge Viper, and I saw a couple of the exotic cars out there, and I did a U-turn, came back around, and I just immediately did a vlog about the cars that I saw that day. So I posted the video that same day, and I want to say the GM or someone saw the video and they reached out. First off, they loved the
Oh,
video,
wow.
and they wanted to talk. They wanted to talk about creating content. And I'd say sometime that next week, I went to them. We talked about content, but they also wanted, realistically, they wanted someone to shoot photography, car photography, and then they wanted, of course, to put it on their website to sell the cars. So I go back to the Bay, and they wanted some test shots, so I do some test shots, show it to them, and they want to work. They're ready to work. And I remember coming back another day because we were going to talk basically contract and money and all the legalities. And I remembered him saying, because I was talking about the quality of the photos, and
Hmm.
I remember him saying that, oh, don't worry about editing, because I think I had told him, hey, I need to edit some stuff out and do the thing, um, and he was like, "Oh no, don't worry about editing. As long as you follow these type of shots, because they got several different angles you got to get
Yeah.
and all of that. And they're like, as long as you follow that, we are good. Just upload it, we'll check it off, and we pay you." And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh no, you're not gonna be putting out crappy work." And then people be pointing back to me and saying, and I'm getting all in my feelings because in the paperwork, I guess in the disclosure, it does say that the photos becomes theirs. So I'm forgetting, I'm not even going to get any credit for the photos. But in my mind, I'm taking
Mm-mm-mm.
all this credit for the photos. And I'm like, man, you're not
Yeah,
going to
yeah, yeah,
show the world this crappy work. Now they're looking at me saying, this was your work. You didn't even bother to edit this stuff.
yeah.
So, uh,
That's the difference between a artist and a producer. Like like when I'm working on these projects for big companies,
mhm,
we're the production shop. We're just there to produce stuff for
Right.
them. And it's not like I'm going to put my name behind it. Like, I don't even put this shit on our portfolio.
Right.
I don't want anyone to know that we even worked on it, right? But it paid the
It
bills,
paid the
right? It paid
bill.
the bills
Yep.
so that we can work on these projects, which, like Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, right? These, or when we did something we did something with Swell Bottle. Like, there's these keystone projects that are amazing we did where we lost money, right? But this is what's able to give us these projects, right? This is where I'm able to flex my design skills.
Right.
This is where I can show off, like, oh, look what we did. But I don't want anybody to see this. Like, till my dying days, I don't want anyone to see this, right? And another thing that you actually just reminded me of is a lot of new young freelancers don't know this. You're not young, obviously, but when you get in the freelancing world, actually the best way, if you want to get to the top, the best way to do it is exactly what you did, is by going to a car dealership or something like that and making these amazing work for free first, right? Going to some restaurant and say, hey, can I make this for you? And I've even seen people do this on YouTube, right? And just do a few of these where you catch their attention and they'll hire you. Maybe they won't even pay you that
Right.
much, but you got this one client where you're doing amazing work for them. And then another car dealership sees that.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, can you do that for me? Oh, can you do that for me? Can you? And then this is how, like, freelancing career really gets built. So that's why I'm not a big fan of, like, somebody saying don't ever do free
Right.
work, right? But actually doing a couple of free works up front can actually end up making you a lot more money
On the back end.
end.
Right. Right. Well, case in point.
That's how it's worked for
right.
us.
Well, case in point for that one, it wasn't paying a lot of money. So I didn't necessarily like scoff at the amount of money. I did realize it wasn't paying a lot, but I'm in a position where that didn't matter at that time. And
Plus, you love cars.
plus I love cars, so it was a win-win, and they knew that. They knew I love cars. I'd already talked about it. They seen my YouTube channel and all the other stuff, so they already knew. Oh, okay, we definitely got a winner. Love cars, so it was an easy pitch.
But imagine this, right? Imagine you shot free of charge an awesome commercial for them,
Right?
Or let's say you went to some car event and you made this, like, music video style trailer or something like that for a big event, right? For free. They didn't pay. Maybe you didn't get their permission. You just did it yourself. You just bought a ticket, went there, and you just did it yourself. And then you put it up, you tagged them, and they saw it. They're like, oh, I love what you're doing. Can you do it on our next event? We'll pay you. Right? This is how you build business, So, yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of how I did it. I didn't have a plan when I started. I didn't really have anything. I just dove in and I just did the things that I love, the way I love to do them. And eventually it led to business,
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think here. The one thing I'll say out of this conversation that you made me realize, looking back on that, was the thing that Jeremiah was trying to get me to realize too. He was trying to get me to realize that it wasn't about the artistry. It wasn't about the creativity. It was more so about the opportunity. He said it. He said more so about the opportunity because you don't know what it's going to lead to down the line.
Exactly.
And I, just being stubborn, was just stuck on creativity. It was like, nah, I can't do it. Plus, I want to do video. I didn't want to shoot. At that point in time, I didn't want to shoot photos that I wasn't going to edit. I did not understand the concept of what was actually happening. I don't necessarily regret it. It definitely was a moment to learn from, as we're talking about it now. But yeah, that's that thing where you got to separate. Again, what you're making me realize right now is understanding the opportunity and separating the creativity
and separating the 80 from the 20%, right? Like, I guarantee you, even now, the top designers, top filmmakers out there, even the biggest directors out there, right? Like, like, there's a episode of Masterclass that Martin Scorsese directed, and And even the top people right now, there are certain projects that they do for money,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's shooting a commercial or something like that, where it just pays so much money that they do it and they're not proud of it, right? But it pays the bills, right? So we have to always remember. We think that these top guys, all they're doing is they just do projects that they love. No, that's not true at all. Like you don't see what's behind the screens, behind the
I can imagine
curtain.
you say that. I can imagine. Have you seen the Diddy commercials?
No.
Man, I can't remember whose product it is. Oh, I can't think. I want to say it's no. I'm trying to say it's like it's not CarMax. I can't think of who it is, but it's some commercial that they're doing, and it's
I know what you mean,
it's like that's not something I would have thought.
Why
Puffy
are you
would
doing
have done.
that?
He would have done that.
Like you really need the money, huh? Like, or like Brad Pitt is like pretty famous in Asia for doing all these ads.
Uh-huh.
But none of us know that, right? He's doing all these cheesy ads in Japan and China.
Oh,
it's because they're paying
they're
them.
paying the money, right?
If they're paying $1 million for a 30-second one-day shoot, like he's gonna do it, and it's that. And without that, like he can't maintain this lifestyle of doing the Fight Club, and you know what I mean?
Exactly. So I realize you've got to you've got to be willing to put in the work, and to put in the work for the generate the revenue or build the capital so that you can invest in your passion project. So I definitely understand that.
Think of it this way. You don't do the work to make money. You do the work, this work, so that you get to do this work. Right? Like Brad Pitt is doing those cheesy commercials, so he gets to make Fight Club for very little bit of money, right? Because usually the films that are the most artistic, the best performing ones are usually the low budget films, the low budget. You know what I mean? So
because they get you on the story and not all the other
exactly
glimmer and shine,
and they get to really let their performance out, right? Whereas in some PG-13 safe movie, they're going to be like, "I'll keep it." You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of like, like restrictions. So think of it like that. I'm doing this so that I can get to do this. Then
I got you.
You're not going to try to do the same work here as you do here. Like your intention is.
I got you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was
and it makes your life a lot easier because if you try to do this like this, you're going to have a heart attack.
Jeez. That is good. Thank you. Thanks, son. I appreciate that. That was definitely I feel like that in itself was a 5-second moment. Jeez. That was a 5-second moment.
Good takeaway.
Yeah, great takeaway.
I hope all the freelancers are watching this.
Thank you. And I appreciate the encouragement because like I said, this is another thing that, and if I didn't say it, I'll say it now, but this is the freelancing part was the thing, and using my production company, is a thing that I've been wanting to do, but I couldn't separate the art or the love from just doing the work. And for me, I will say the struggle or the handicap, not even struggle, the handicap more so was I'm not in a place, and this isn't to toot my own horn or anything like that. I've been blessed to be in a place that I'm taking care of, can take care of things financially, and I'm not necessarily hurting, but I think that's the handicap that doesn't allow for me to push harder or have pushed harder to do it. So
I see what you mean. It's like a blessing in disguise because you're not really stressed out financially.
Right.
So
and that took some work though.
You don't have as much of a struggle.
And I'm gonna say this, that took some work.
But yeah, I mean I think kudos to you because I feel like most people nowadays are like so not worried about that financial security, and they're just all about following my passion, that they're living paycheck to paycheck, and it's like it's so hard for most people, right? And so the fact that you were able to get yourself into that situation is already a huge, like now what you got to do is instead of 80-20, maybe you make it 50-50
something
or maybe but you still got to push,
still got to
right?
push, like still got to push. And it's
that's actually much harder. It's hard. It's the reason why you know, it's how do you stay hungry, right? Because when you
Exactly.
look at Jay-Z, when you look at some of the top
Mm-hmm.
performance, what makes them different than the one-hit wonders are that it's easy to be going all in when you're hungry
Mm-hmm.
because you're really
You're really
hungry.
hungry, right?
But then once you're in that private jet, you got the mansion, like, can you work as if you're just as
Mm-hmm.
hungry, right? And that's what most people can't do unless they truly love what
Right.
they do, right?
Right. And I truly
So
love it.
you're in
Yeah.
that place.
I
So
definitely
yeah,
love what I'm doing, and I will definitely revamp my thought process around how I approach the work and how I approach
yeah,
clients, because now after
yeah,
we've talked, I'm ready
yeah.
to start looking for
I'll say
clients.
this. One last thing. This is not necessarily for you, but for all the
Sure.
listeners. If you are doing the 80-20 thing, when you're wearing this hat, you're a businessman. When you're wearing this hat, you're an artist. So make sure you take off this hat when you go here and put on your businessman hat.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you think, the way you approach everything is totally
Right.
different. So,
Right.
all right, AB,
Well, thanks, son. I
it's
appreciate it.
been a pleasure talking to you again, as
It
always.
is.
Hope to see you this Sunday.
Yes, I plan to be there. Good old
Awesome.
Sunday service.
And thank you all, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.
And I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you all.
Cheers, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.